Today's topic is something, a bit of a review, but adding a new level to it. We're going to talk about consecutive numbers and finding the unknown, finding our consecutive numbers. So first, let's go through what does the actual word consecutive mean. Consecutive means following or continuous. So it's something that follows something else. So a consecutive number or numbers would be like 1, 2, and 3. Okay, it's the numbers that come right after each other. You could have 23, 24, 25. It could just be two consecutive numbers. Okay, but now when we talk about consecutive even numbers, we're counting by evens, and it's the evens that come one right after the other, like 32, 34, 36. Another example you could write down, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It's not skipping any numbers in between that are even. Well, that goes for the same thing with odd. 15, 17, 19. You're doing every two, okay? So this is how these questions might come up. The problem says the sum of, meaning what are we going to do? Somewhere in there, there's addition, right? It says the sum of two consecutive numbers is 123. Find the numbers. So remember, this is one number right after the next. That's going to add up to 123. So yes, you could sit there and try and figure it out, but it's going to take you longer. And you need to be able to algebraically solve this so that you can save time on questions to spend more time on a more challenging question. So always identify your variable. So I would say, okay, n is my first number. I don't know it. Well, it's two consecutive. So let's make up a number, right? So let's say our first number was 5. What would the next number be? It's consecutive number. 6, right? Because that comes right after 5. Well, think, how did I get 6? I did, 5 plus 1. Remember, 5 in this example was our first number. So if our first number is n, what do I do to get to the next number? I add 1. So that now is what my second number is. So now I've got a variable for both numbers. So my first number is n, because I don't know it yet. And once I find n, all I'm going to do is add 1 to it. And then what did my problem say? That it's the sum of those two. So n plus 1 equals 123. Now this is where it's review. All you're going to do is your steps to solve an equation. Combine like terms to give you 2n plus 1. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides to get my constants on the same side. So 2n equals 122. I isolate my variable by dividing both sides by 2. So that I'm left with n equals 61. So I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to look for it. That's not the answer to this question. It says find the numbers. So on your page, you need to write 61 and 62. Those are the two numbers. Don't just write 61. You have to also write 62. Okay, so here's our next one. The sum of two consecutive numbers is 85. Find the numbers. So I want you to pause now and try this one on your own. Okay, so just like the last one, n is our first number, n plus 1 is our second number. When I go and I add these, because it says the sum of, I would combine like terms, bring my 1 to the other side. 2n equals 84. Divide both sides by 2 so that n equals 42. But is that my answer? I want you somewhere over here to tell me your answer. You should have 42 and 43. It's not just 42. Okay. All right. Okay. So now that we've practiced how to find consecutive numbers, let's step it up a bit. This one says, find two consecutive even numbers whose sum is 54. Well, if I look at this, okay, n is my first number still. So let's think. If my first number was 6, this is how we arrive at this. My next consecutive even is 8, because I'm talking about even numbers. Well, you got to ask yourself, what did you do to 6 to get 8? I add 2. So let's go back to my current example then. If n is my first number, what would I have to do to get to its next consecutive even? I'd have to add 2. Always. It's always going to be this way, ladies and gentlemen. If it's two consecutive even numbers, okay, your first number is always n, and your second is always n plus 2. So then I just find their sum. N plus 2n equals 54. I combine my like terms. I bring my constants to the same side. Then I divide both sides by my coefficient so that n equals 26. So I got which answer? Which answer is this? My first number or my second number? You got it. This is your first number. So you need to write down on your page 26 and 28 because it said find two consecutive even. Okay? So now let's look at this one. It's the sum of two consecutive odd numbers. And then they want you to find the numbers. So right now, you're going to pause, use what you know, and try this on your own. Okay. So if my first number is n, my second number is n plus 2. Makes sense, right? And their sum is 128. So if I take n and then I add n plus 2. Combine my like terms. I bring my constants to the same side. I isolate my variable through dividing on this example. So that n is going to equal 63. Did you get an odd number? If you got an odd number, then most likely you did your work correctly. If you did not get an odd number, you did something wrong. But that's not your answer. Your answer would be 63 and 65. So while this might seem confusing, it just takes practice. You can do this. So if you don't understand, go back and rewatch the video. We will be practicing more of this in class tomorrow. So if there is something you did not get, please do not hesitate to ask.